Thank you, Jacques. It's an honor to have here Professor Frank Criado, past president of the ICVS and founder of the ICVS, who will talk about the history of AAA.
Well, it is a very special topic. I hope you guys like it. Albert Einstein was born on March 14th, 1879, in Germany, into a secular Jewish family. His parents actually were quite concerned at the beginning of his life because he seemed to be a little slow, as they had observed, and they were afraid that he may have some brain development problems. Imagine that. But later that same year, he was given a compass, and somehow this device that he found captivating immediately began his lifelong exploration into the unseen forces guiding the world and the universe. At the beginning of the 20th century, he frankly was not doing well, and he had a difficult time making a living. There you see, for instance, on the right, an ad that he published in a local newspaper in Switzerland once he had moved to Zurich and then to Bern, offering his services as a math tutor for students because he needed, to make some money. His break came a few months later that same year when the father of his best friend recommended him for a job at the patent office in Bern, Switzerland, that he accepted, of course. So he moved from Zurich to Bern, and by then he was already a Swiss citizen, giving up on his German citizenship, by the way. So this was a perfect job for him. He had no difficulty going through the patent applications and the kinds of things that he had to review, with plenty of time left for him to daydream about so many things that were really preoccupying his very active, growing mind. One thought in particular: what would happen if one could travel along a beam of light? Think about that. Have you guys thought about that? Not too many people have. Of course, 1905, the Annus Mirabilis, the miracle year, was when he really came through. He published this low-level clerk in a patent office. That's what he was, unknown. Nobody knew who the hell he was. He published his 4 papers in a German scientific physics magazine that were to change the understandings of physics and really change the world forever. I don't have the time to go through some of that those papers contain, but it was really absolutely unbelievable, never to be repeated. His first wife, Mileva Maric, was a Serbian-origin physicist and mathematician, and by all accounts, a brilliant woman that truly helped him structure and write those papers without attribution or credit, unfortunately. By then, things had become better for him. He got better jobs, and he was able to become known. But at the same time, the situation in Germany, of course, had worsened tremendously. Hitler was already in power, and the movement against the Jews was starting. So he decided eventually to emigrate and leave Germany and Europe forever, first to England, and then from England to the United States. And there you see Einstein with his second wife, his cousin, by the way, sailing to the United States, to his new home in Princeton, New Jersey, where he had been offered an excellent job at that very well-known university. This is the home where he lived the last 20 years of his life. A very significant event occurred in 1939, August the 2nd, when he wrote this letter to President Roosevelt, really encouraging him to develop or do something, see if they could develop the atomic bomb, because he was very fearful that the Nazis in Germany would get ahead of the US and others in the world and have atomic power before anyone else. And of course, that would have been such a catastrophe. Later in life, he regretted to have done that because of what we all know about the atomic bomb and what happened with it in Japan and so on. For many years, this was now 1948. For many years, he had complained off and on of abdominal complaints and pain and discomfort, both in his abdomen and in his back. So he consulted with this German surgeon who was the head of the Jewish Brooklyn Hospital that you have there on the slides at the time, Rudolf Nissen, a well-known, reputable German surgeon who suspected that he may have had an aneurysm or something else. So there was no CT imaging or anything like that at the time. So he decided to perform towards the end of the year, 1948, an exploratory laparotomy where indeed he found, quote unquote, a large aneurysm, and he decided to wrap the aneurysm. Better said, really not wrapping, it was not an encirclement of the aneurysm, because he felt that mobilizing the aorta posteriorly would have been too dangerous, and it certainly would have been, especially in those days. So the anterior 2/3 of the aneurysm were covered with this yellow cellophane material that in those days was one of the proposed treatments for aneurysms, especially aortic aneurysms. Interestingly, cellophane was and is a totally inert material. So cellophane was really, and many people don't realize this, used as a vehicle for stuff and substances that would put on the cellophane to act as an irritant and create an inflammatory reaction and a fibrosis that supposedly could protect the aneurysm from further expansion and potential rupture. So that's how it worked, at least theoretically. Another treatment that was being tried, totally unsuccessfully, I might add, was wiring of aneurysms. This is not Einstein's, but somebody else's aneurysm that have been filled up with wire, as you can see, several miles of wires, but that did not work because it didn't prevent a rupture. Remember that there was no actual treatment, surgical treatment for aneurysms until the initial efforts in 1951. The first operation of direct resection and replacement with a cadaveric homograph was performed in the United States by Schaefer and Hardin, but it was not a successful operation because the patient died on the 29th day. Dubost, as it is well known by all, in Paris, France, was the first to perform a successful such operation, followed in short order by several other attempts in the United States, also successfully, as you see on that list. Rudolf Nissen, as I said before, was a German surgeon who became a general surgeon and then a thoracic surgeon in the 1920s and 1930s. He was also born into a Jewish family. So in 1933, he decided to leave Germany and went to Turkey to become the head of surgery at Istanbul University, where he stayed for 2 or 3 years and already accomplished much in there. In 1939, he went on to the United States, where he became a surgery research fellow at the Mass General Hospital, and then eventually to New York and Brooklyn, where he was to become the chief of surgery in that hospital, as we said. Of course, Nissen was to contribute much to surgery in general, particularly thoracic surgery, including the fundoplication, for what he is best known. Many contributions indeed. So after that operation, Einstein remained in the hospital for 3 weeks and was discharged home. There's a picture when he was going home at the beginning of 1949. And for the following 5 or 6 years, he led a rather quiet life, and reportedly he was doing well. Then on Tuesday, the 12th of April, 1955, things began to take a turn for the worse when the aneurysm ruptured. The diagnosis was made clinically, and he was offered surgery, although the surgeon was very reluctant to undertake surgery, and wisely, Einstein decided not to have any treatment, and he died 2 days later of a rupture aneurysm. So this, of course, was worldwide news. By then, Einstein was a worldwide celebrity everywhere around the world, and this was big news at the time. Dr. Thomas Harvey was a pathologist at Princeton Hospital, and he performed an autopsy very shortly after his death, and there he is, hours later, talking to reporters. I'm going to go over my time, only a few seconds, about what he had done. What he didn't say is that he had removed, without permission from the family or Einstein himself, his brain, because he was obsessed with trying to figure out why Einstein was such a genius. And he figured that looking at the brain, studying the brain macroscopically and macroscopically would perhaps give him the answers. He actually separated and cut it up into more than 200 different pieces that he sent all around the country to various institutions to try to figure this out. This became a several decade-long saga that really was not resolved until much later. There you have the desk of Albert Einstein as he was left when he died in his home, and there you have on the right where he's being taken after his death to be cremated the same day. So this is an interesting story, particularly as it relates to the brain, but there are, of course, relationships to the aorta and the aneurysm treatment that we are all focusing on. Thank you very much.
Shall we leave the questions till the end?